Prove It with Batya, a show in which I bring on somebody I really respect and really disagree with to debate the big news story of the day. Obviously, today.
Oh, her last name is Sargon. Okay, I forgot about that. I think my brain just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. When CBS and Fox are both owned by right-wing ideologues. Yeah, I know, that's obviously not good. Although I don't think that has anything to do with like billionaires or whatever. That's ideology. And yeah, and also like stuff like that's really really not good too, because CBS used to be like do like really good journalism, and I mean maybe sometimes they still do, but some stuff it's not like, there have already been some yikesy shit. I think Trump just likes a strongman shit. That is all he does with it, with all insane leaders. Yeah, I know. Murdoch, I mean, what do you mean? Yeah, with Murdoch it's about ideology too. By the way, keep in mind that for these same people, obviously that ideology includes, protecting their bottom line, because it is baked into the whole fiscal conservative shit. Um, yeah, CBS probably was fine under different ownership. I never really saw a problem with CBS. 60 Minutes seemed to have some good stuff. The third one is Anthony Sargon, the leftist Lebanese podcaster. Wait, is he the guy who's on that show where they attacked Loner? Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. It's on the tip of my tongue. He's also filthy rich and invested in denying client shit. Yeah, I know. Listen, Pat, I don't think the fact that he is a billionaire is the problem. It's the fact that he uses his money for bad shit. You can have billionaires or people with lots of money who don't use their money for bad shit, or who use their money to like make cool stuff or whatever. Or like maybe it's half and half. Maybe they use their money for some stuff, some good stuff, and like some bad stuff. Like, I mean, holy fuck. If fucking Elon had not gone into politics and he just spent all of his time working on like SpaceX and Tesla, then like that would have been fine with me. But no, he like got addicted to Twitter and got his brain broken. Oh, the guy who said Jews dying is music too. I don't remember him saying that, but yeah. Um Really, I think the issue is like when your media organization is bought by someone who's an ideologue who wants to push their ideology rather than like, caring about the truth or whatever. I mean, for fuck's sake, everyone here likes The Atlantic, right? You know who owns The Atlantic? Steve Jobs' widow. She's obviously rich too. But The Atlantic is a really great publication. Anyway,
That story is there has been a third assassination attempt of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And we're going to be debating political violence and where it's coming from. So you will see pretty soon, you can vote in the poll. The poll is going to ask, where is the political violence coming from? The left, the right, or both sides?
no, Murdoch. Does Murdoch own the Daily Mail? I thought that he did. No, it wasn't him. It's fuck, what's the guy's name? Oh, he owns the Times. But Apple is woke. Well, hey, you know what? If you can still have companies like yeah, I know the New York Post is also wait, is the New York Post owned by Murdoch? Fuck. What was that guy's name? It's this is gonna kill me until I figure it. Oh, Conrad Black, that was it. Although I don't know if he still owns that. Is he even still alive? Post Media. Post Media, no. Oh, these guys also own the National Post. Huh, welp. Is this the same guy? Newspaper publisher. Yeah, it is the same guy. Oh, he went to jail and then Trump pardoned him. Yeah. I thought that he was the one who owned the Sun, but I could be wrong about that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Of course, a Canadian is destroying my country with the Telegraph. Wait, does he own the Telegraph? Does it just say? Career. Oh yeah, he does. Well, he owns the Daily. He controlled Hollinger International, once the world's third largest English language news paper empire, which published the Daily Telegraph, because his name was often brought up was brought up a couple times in a class that I took when I was in high school. Anyway. You've been getting small Fs. I'm not dropping any frames, so I don't know what's going on there. That's not something I'm necessarily sure I can do about. Sometimes I will randomly get those when I'm watching streams on YouTube, particularly if I'm on my phone, and I don't know why. Yeah, it's probably YouTube's fault. Anyway, let's go.
And in addition to your comments and your results from the poll, I am so excited to have Mike Nellis here with me today to debate. Mike is somebody who...
By the way, just so you're all aware, there has been an uptick in left-wing violence as of recently. However, the number is still small, and it is still not the same amount as, like, the overall amount of right-wing violence that there have been, like, at least in the United States. I checked this morning before I watched this. This is what the data says. Anybody who tries to say that, like, it's all being fueled by the left or whatever are literally just, like, fucking, at least for political violence, that they're just pushing partisan crap. This lady seems familiar. Oh, Pragmatic American. You may have watched this lady debate with Destiny. She is a brain-dead populist who claims to care about working people, but then basically loves Trump. And like runs defense for so much shit she does. Why is she reminding me of that mega communist? Because in some ways I feel like maybe she kind of channels that. Yeah, she's on Piers a lot, yes. My recollection is that there isn't an uptick. The right violence just fell a lot. That might be the case, although that's not what I saw. Hello, Chase. Wait, is she pro-Russia? Oh, she calls herself a mega leftist. Oh, okay. Or the left-wing uptick can be explained by noisy data. Maybe, I don't know. I saw a CSIS article about it. Yeah, I honestly just asked the Clanker and it gave me a bunch of studies, but yeah, and I just kind of glanced over it this morning. But my understanding is that there has been like an uptick in like, I guess 2025 and 2026, or no, it was since 2016, it's been on the rise, but it's still far less than like right-wing violence. Which mega figures aren't pro-Russia? I was gonna say Ben Shapiro, but he's not mega, so I don't know. I feel like a lot of them probably are just pro-Russia. Now I want to hear her talk about Ukraine. But first we'll watch this. I don't know why. For whatever reason, this woman fascinates me. Because it's just... How much of that was anti-Semitism? I believe that... I would imagine that that's probably put into a different category completely than, like, just left or right political violence. But I would have to ask. Just because it seems like stuff like that tends to be put into a different category. But I don't know. Is Lindsey Graham mega? If yes, him. Lindsey Graham is... Yeah, he probably is. No, he's not MAGA. He's an establishment Republican who bent the knee to Trump. But I don't know if I would say he's MAGA. He's certainly not MAGA in the way Marjorie Taylor Greene and Anna Paulina Luna and Lauren Boebert are. Yeah, Lindsey. Yeah, he'll kind of just do whatever Trump says. But I mean, yeah, I know he's pro-Ukraine, although probably not enough to stand up to Trump. Anyway, let's keep going.
I really, really respect, even though I really disagree with him. Last week, Mike and I were on a show together, and Mike, who is a Democrat and Democratic strategist, ended up defending Donald Trump, and I ended up attacking him. It was about weed and whether we think there should be more of it, less of it. And he's that kind of person who a lot of people in this business don't.
How interesting that she is like anti-weed. A real mega leftist over here.
For themselves. They just say what the party line is. That's not Mike. And I have to say one more thing, which is this. We're going to have a very vigorous debate right now. We really disagree on this topic, and we both feel very strongly about our positions. The fact that we are able to have this conversation, and having this conversation, to me is so utterly precious and so much more important, for me anyway, than winning in some sort of objective sense, even though obviously I want to win the debate. But
oh, now I'm dropping frames. We'll see if hopefully it'll go back up. But now I'm wondering if I should just wait for it to fix itself. Because usually it fixes itself after like a couple minutes. Chat, where is money? That's an excellent question. I mean, there's only 34 people here, Arthur. I don't know what, like, honestly, I'm not really sure what happened with regards to, like, or where all the viewers went. When I remember I used to be getting 60 or 70 people. It might just be because I'm not streaming, at the correct times, or, like, because other people are live. I have no idea. I mean, Destiny's gone today, and, I don't even think there's anybody else. Yeah, like, I guess right now anything else is just live, and yeah. Oh, you're seeing 47 people. Well, I'm seeing 34. I don't know. Yeah, but that's what I mean. It seems like it kind of just averages at around there, and maybe it might go up to 50, but usually it doesn't get any higher than that. Or, like, I guess, yeah, I'm not really sure what to do about that, or, like, why it's doing that. It's still early for most Americans. It's like 11:25 a.m. Eastern time. I mean, I guess. It just jumped to 43. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not getting an accurate number. I have no idea. Like, it just says current viewers here. Yeah, potentially, Bill. It could be that. Although, I don't know. Usually it seems to be better, still fairly early in America. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe Fellrunner and Grassroots will arrive eventually. I don't know. Usually making about $100 a stream is generally my goal, so yeah. But we'll see. I don't want to keep playing this until the frames come back. Hold on. I also haven't really been putting myself out there either. Like I haven't gone on Destiny's stream. Loner hasn't been around. I haven't gone on his stream. I just haven't, yeah. Wait, is Connor streaming? I didn't realize that he was. Connor usually ends at around noon, though. Or 1. Okay, that didn't help. Come on. Okay, and we are green again. Stuart wants his protection money. Stuart always wants his protection money. Did you talk about Mills dropping out? Not really. I mean, there's not much to say. Janet Mills dropped out of the main race, so I guess that means Graham Plattner is basically the nominee in Maine now. I don't know how that's gonna go. I mean, he'll probably win, which is good, I suppose, because he's going to be another Democrat. I don't really like the fact that he's like kind of a brain dead populist, but you know, whatever. He was ADDing all over the place before the content started as of an hour ago. I mean, that's fine. I do the same thing. Maybe lower the bitrate. YouTube as a whole has been crappy for me today. I mean, I'm streaming at the ideal bitrate. I don't think no, I'm not dropping frames anymore, so it should be fine now. Yeah, 400 million aid was unfrozen by the Pentagon, yeah. Short takes she provided 2024 on Russia. U.S. shouldn't support Ukraine. It's not beneficial. She doesn't see Russia as any threat to the U.S. Democrats. Bad. Okay. Yeah, but does she have any videos on it? I'd rather just watch her talk about, I'd rather watch her talk about it. I think using populist rhetoric is okay, but if most of your shit is literally just about populism, or like all of your prescriptions are just populist prescriptions, then I think that's lame. And I don't really think that's particularly helpful, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Because a lot of that stuff is not going to solve most of the complex problems that we face, which is partly why Trump is failing at everything. Because all he ever did was like not propose anything real. I'm going to support the shit out of him because I care more about Dem majority than the fact that he seems like a shit guy. Well, yeah, obviously, of course. I haven't looked much into Tallarico. Honestly, the one thing that I worry about with Tallarico is that he is talking way too much, or rather that like the gun control shit that he has expressed might be too much. I don't think he fully expressed support for an assault weapons ban, but in the past I believe that he did. And like stuff like that's not good. Like you can't go to Texans and tell them that you're going to take their guns away. I think that's part of the reason why Beto O'Rourke lost the election, because he literally got up there and said, "Yes, I am going to take away your AR-15s." And I don't, yeah. I know most people don't understand the complex shit. That's why it's fine to use some populist rhetoric, but yeah. I mean, he won, so it must work. Yeah, he won the primary, but he hasn't won the general election yet, is what I mean. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know who he's running against. The polls are showing him ahead against both Republican candidates. Then again, I don't trust polls much at all. How close is it? That's like a real question. Like, is he massively ahead, or is it just like by a few points? I guess that'll make the difference. Honestly, I hope he wins. I do. It would be very nice to see a Texas seat get flipped. Whose seat is it anyway? I know that there's a primary there, but who was the Republican who resigned? Because it was a Republican seat, yes? Oh, margin of error. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to keep watching this, and I'm going to grab some food. One sec.
This is what it means to be an American, is to find people who you respect, who you disagree with, and hold them close, because that is the only alternative to political violence. All of which is to say, Mike, thank you so much for joining.
Also, hold on. Tell me, is this volume okay?
Me today. So why don't you start us off and tell us.
Actually, this is probably fine. I probably didn't need to like boost it. I'll leave it at this.
Where you think the political violence is coming from in America?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's political violence coming from the right, and I think there's political violence coming from the left, and I think there's political violence also just coming from God knows where, because people don't have the type of ideologies that you do. I think one of the mistakes that we make as political commentators is we have, there's a conservative ideology, and there's a liberal ideology, and there's DCism, and then there's the third way, and then there's...
Oh my God. Actual nuance.
CPAC, like whatever. Like most normal people in their lives don't think that way. And so we try to like layer things on. And like we're going to get into it at some point, but the individual who attempted to rush into the ball.
Cornyn or Paxton not resigned primaried. Was it Cornyn who got primaried? I thought it was, oh no, that was previously. There was someone who I was really surprised got primaried. I thought it was, it was the guy in the wheelchair. I've never heard Tallarico talk about guns. I didn't know he had a problem with them. I just looked it up temporarily, and I went to his page where he does talk about. I don't know that his page his page doesn't seem to mention an assault weapons ban, but his Wikipedia did mention that he had in the past like championed for like assault weapons bans and stuff. We want Paxton to win because he is very corrupt and hated even by other Republicans. Isn't Paxton the crazy Nazi dude, or was that like another guy in a different? Was that like? Is this for the Senate race or the House? I'm sorry, there are so many races. Anyway, I'm gonna keep this going. This guy is like, oh my god, actual nuance. I'll be right back.
Room at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, like clearly more on my side if we're doing it that way than your side in this particular case. But also, like I said, a bunch of things that online that I think don't fit with the profile of where you would expect it to be. So to me, I think there's a broader problem I'd like to get beyond, which is this sort of like knee-jerk reaction on the internet to be like, is it the Democrat? Like we were, I mean, were you at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, by the way? Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I tried to check in on everybody. I texted, like, I don't have your cell phone number, but I texted like everybody that I knew to make sure they were okay. But like, we do this thing where like, we didn't know what had happened. And like all of MAGA world was already blaming Democrats before we even knew what the hell had happened. And then there were people on my side, by the way, that were already saying that whatever was going on was a staged incident, which was really silly. So we have a violence problem in America today, and some of it is political and a lot of it isn't. And I just don't think that anybody wants to have the actual conversation about what the hell is going on.
So where do you think it is coming from?
Well, I think it's a combination of a bunch of different issues that we haven't dealt with in a long time, which is going to be like, part of it is gun violence and having a conversation about how easy it is to get access to firearms, particularly for people who are disturbed and looking to do something horrible. And I say that as a gun owner myself. Like I have a firearm myself. I'm trained. I have my concealed carry license. I got it, and we can get into this later, after Laura Loomer decided to threaten me and my kids, and I was, or me and my son, excuse me. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that I'm safe, because I didn't like the caliber of the comments that I was getting online. I also think like we haven't dealt with mental health in America today. There's hardly any mental health infrastructure in America today. We do have escalating rhetoric in this country. I do think like a great deal of it does come from Donald Trump and melts its way all the way down. And then there are people who rise back up in it. I think it's, in my mind, it is undeniable that Donald Trump has been a corrosive force in American politics. And I imagine that's something that you and I are going to disagree on. There are people on the left who do it too. I'm sure that you're going to bring up Hassan Piker today and some of the comments that he's made. We should talk about that as well. But I just think it's not one group of people, and it's not one thing. It's like a bunch of stuff. And I think we should just be more nuanced in the conversation, because to me, what happened on Saturday, while it is certainly very likely, based on everything we know, like an attempt to at least assassinate a Trump administration official, if not Donald Trump himself, and it's a failed one at that, it probably really, when you strip it all down, isn't all that different from people who decided they're going to go shoot up a Catholic school in Minnesota, or somebody that's going to go attack a school, here in Chicago, which happens all the time because there's mass shootings every day in schools, and my son has to go through drills. So you find it's usually like some combination of a lonely, isolated young man with access to a firearm, no mental support, spending a lot of time online, gets hyper fixated on something, decides to, in their mind, be the hero, if that makes sense.
Okay, I want to get your reaction to some polling that we have. And the reason that I think this is such an important debate is, and I want to be the person who can say, like, yeah, it's coming from both sides. We all have a role in it. We can all fix it, not least because if I am right and that I believe it's mostly coming from the left, I'm powerless to fix it because no one on the left listens to me. So it would be, I would much prefer.
I listen to you. I just might not agree with you, but I listen to you.
On my side, because that gives me agency and power to fix it. But when I feel that if we can't accurately name where it's coming from, we can't fix it, which is why I want to sort of call your attention to this. So let's start with some polling. Cher, can you pull up the poll from YouGov? So this poll came from, this one. So this poll came out in it was 2025, September 10th of 2025. And as you can see here, Mike, if you look at political ideology, Americans who call themselves very liberal. So the poll was, do you ever think political violence is legitimate? And 25% of very liberal Americans said, yes, violence can sometimes be justified. 17% of liberals said it can sometimes be justified. 9% of moderates, 6% of conservatives, and then it looks to me like 3% of very conservatives. To me, Mike, I look at this and it seems like the more liberal you identify, the more legitimate you think political violence is. And there's a second poll I just want to call your attention to, and then I want to get your take on it. Cher, can you pull up The Economist? So here you see something similar, which is that
like as a
the question, is it ever justified for citizens to resort to violence?
This should be horrifying.
Oh my God.
But in addition, I think it's worth keeping in mind that CNN, so obviously J6 happened because Fox.
Fuck off, boss. Shut up. Anyway, so this, what hypothetical are you talking about? Oh, I don't even know what. I mean, I think Mandela was justified that question. Well, yeah, exactly. That's my issue. This question is, like, is it ever justified for citizens to resort to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals? I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're being honest with yourself, you have to say that the answer to that question is yes. Sometimes this is in fact justified. Just because people answer that way doesn't mean that, like, they're all going to go out and pick up guns. I would suspect that the reason maybe why liberals, maybe they're more educated, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. The United States had a civil war. You guys had a fucking revolution. The United States was born out of political violence. Political violence is a thing, and sometimes it's based. Yeah, sometimes you have to do things. It's not, you know, like Mandela used political violence. That's what I mean. Like, I forgot that this question was this stupid. It's just dumb. Like, this doesn't tell us anything. You'd have to, like, focus the question way more if you actually were trying to prove something. All this says is that some people think political violence is justified in some cases. Oh no! It's only based on people I like to. Well, if it's in favor, like, basically, I think that it's based when you have no other choice and there's no other way, you know? That is a big oh no. What do you mean, Johan? Like, I feel like people are just being, like, really fucking weird if they don't think that sometimes political violence is justified. You're just lying.
In order to achieve political goals, the percent who said yes, you can see that obviously young people, it's higher, but for liberals, it's way higher. So young liberal people will have the highest. It looks like about 30% there, as opposed to people who identify as conservative, where it never passes the 10% mark. So I guess, what's your reaction? I mean, to me, like, it just seems like pretty obvious. Like, polling does seem to suggest a correlation, at least, between identifying as liberal, identifying as very liberal, and then having a tolerance for, a belief in that political violence is justified.
Yeah, so
I agree that it's not justified in America right now, Johan. It could be later, depending on how authoritarian Trump gets. Also, what do you mean not everyone is autistic, and think about the issue like that? You know what? I even have other issues with the way in which this poll is arranged. Like, do you think that most leftists are going to describe themselves as very liberal? Chase, nobody are actually, I think, yesterday Vosh got linked in Destiny's chat for something that he was talking about, and I might watch some of it later, but it's not about Israel, so I don't know that you're gonna care. Because every time you want to watch Vosh, it's always about Israel. Or something adjacent to Israel. Conservatives probably think political violence is unrelated to states' rights. No, I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't think this question really tells us enough. It's just, I do think that it's quite vague. Or rather, I would have liked to have seen a greater level of, the question to be more focused. Like, do you think political violence in the United States is ever justified? Or do you think that political violence right now in the United States is justified? Or do you think that it could be justified in the future? You know, rather than this vague shit. Because when you ask a question like that, yeah. Yeah, Johan, I don't know why. Like, Johan, what is it that you expect me to say? Like, do you think that there's something else going on here? Also, do you actually think that, like, leftists would say that they are very liberal? I feel like they'd be annoyed at that classification. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is just English. It's true what Pat said. That's how the surveys work. Yeah, well, you know what? It's shitty then. It's like when leftists wave around surveys saying the majority of Americans support Medicare for all, when really, if you dig into it further, that's actually how you it's how you ask the question that determines how many of them are actually in favor of it. Because that number fucking drops when you ask them, are you in favor of banning private insurance? Then it goes down to like 30%. If you have a problem, you have a problem with every survey. It's like that for a reason. I don't necessarily have a problem with the survey, but I have a problem with the way that, like, Batya here and all these conservatives are basically using the survey to try to jump to conclusions about how this means that everybody on the left is going to go out and pick up a gun and do violence. And this is proof of that. But yeah, sometimes I do have problems with polling that asks questions in shitty ways, like the Medicare for All polls that leftists love waving around. Or I mean, like, fuck, Arthur could tell you about how the polling for Putin doesn't really tell you much of anything. It could be concerning, Johan, or it couldn't. I don't know. I need more information. This poll alone doesn't really tell me that much. Yeah, I know. It's not specific. It doesn't say in America. Like, yeah, okay, so the people who were very liberal were more left, you know, let's just see. I mean, maybe this guy might pose a completely different answer to me, you know. Like, listen, I agree, political violence is like has been on the rise on left since 2016, but it's still like a small percentage in comparison to the number of people or the amount of political violence that occurs on the right. It tells you a lot if you interpret it correctly. No, Arthur, what I mean is that like yeah, like you have to interpret it in a certain way. But it's just the interpretation isn't trivial. I'm just saying that like I felt like the other polling data that you showed us gave me a lot more information about where Russians were coming from in comparison to the government data, which seemed overly simplistic. And like I believe you said that they did that on purpose. Or like there was a reason why they asked questions like that.
I mean, I took a look at the crosstabs for both of these before we started because I've seen you post them before and I've seen you talk about them on News Nation. And so I think especially for the first one that you showed, but for both of these, one, they were taken in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, more or less, give or take a little bit of time there. And I think it's problematic to poll on that in the middle of a nationally traumatic thing because it's going to change the way that people are reacting. And it's better to do it when there isn't something fresh because there's probably some people on the left who were over indexing to that, given how a lot of people felt in my party about that. And by the way, the assassination of Kirk was horrible. I found out on live TV and immediately did what I think a normal person should do, which is like express condolences to the family.
If we assume that the very liberal people were actually leftists who begrudgingly ticked the very liberal box because they didn't have a leftist or socialist option, and that when they felt like political violence was justified in that, and that was how they were thinking of it, then that's also a fair point. I was also thinking that maybe that's probably the case because unfortunately, like I kind of wish that like we wouldn't just, or that that the word liberal wouldn't just get used for like every left-wing position.
And I think we don't have enough people in our space right now acting like normal people and just trying to not rush to get like engagement and shit. Am I allowed to curse on here? I don't want to get you in trouble. I didn't ask.
Mike, you can do whatever you want.
Perfect. All right. Well, listen, I'm used to talking to you on television. So like, I'm trying to be like, you know, I'm Irish Catholic from the Midwest. It's in my DNA. But there's a couple of other statistics I want to point you to because I think it's like easy for like to cherry pick like two things that sort of make your point, but like I can kind of do the same thing, which is why I think getting beyond the like who's doing what is sort of reductive at this point. But in 2024, the DOJ had a study which the Trump DOJ took down because it didn't back up their inferences.
No, Arthur, that wasn't Karl Rove. The demonization of the word liberal started like quite a bit before him. I mean, I don't know exactly like who started it, but like Ann Coulter was doing it and Rush Limbaugh was doing it. At some point, the right turned liberal into a dirty word in the United States. I think probably like in the 90s or the 80s was when that started. Epic would very likely know this more than I would, but I do remember that because the way that they would talk about it was kind of ridiculous. For normies, liberal equals left. A lot of casual socialists would still say they are liberal. Yeah, that's fair. I'm thinking of like a specific, although the number of the people that I'm thinking of are a very, very small group. I'd also be curious to know like how many people identified as very liberal. Like how big of a group is this 25% that we're talking about here? Or like, is this group in particular? I'm sure that, I'm sure this poll, if I find this poll, I'm sure that hopefully it would tell me like how, like, you know, like what their percentage is of the overall left, because that's also important to know too.
About things, but if you look at incidents of right-wing violence, it's dramatically outstretched to right-wing. There were, I forget the exact timeline here, I didn't write it down, but I believe it was like something like the early 90s to like 2024. There were 224 incidents of right-wing violence compared to 42 incidents of left-wing violence. Again, Trump's DOJ took it down, has not replaced that with anything, did not give an explanation for why they took that down. Cato, which is not a part.
They took it down because it was inconvenient. Yeah, I'll pull up the poll in a sec when I'm done eating.
partisan organization relative to left versus right. It's a libertarian group. They found that over half of political violence in America comes from the right wing and only 22% comes from the left wing. So I flagged that. YouGov had a poll, which was actually just from a few days ago, I believe, which had, if you ask right-wing voters if violence is acceptable, excuse me, I actually got this wrong. They asked independent voters whether or not they believe right-wing violence or left-wing violence is a bigger problem. 33% said right-wing violence was a bigger problem. 20% said left-wing violence. And I would argue that's a better metric given the fact that the left and the right get skewed in their echo chambers, whereas independents are much more likely to be free-thinking relative to where we're at. And then TIP had a poll, which I believe was towards the end of last year, and asked people who identify as Republicans whether or not they think violence can be acceptable in political circumstances. 35% said yes. Dems was 23% yes. But my thing is, like, 35% for Republicans, 23% for Dems. You can find one that shows the inverse of that. We're really not talking about that much difference, because 80-90% of Americans will tell you violence is not the way to deal with any of our problems. I'll tell you that right now and condemn what the shooter did. I'll condemn what the guy did for Charlie Kirk. But I do have a little bit of a problem, and I want to bring this up because I went through it. I pulled some of your tweets, Batya, as you did with mine, I'm sure, because I know you like to be prepared for this stuff. So do I. Is when I go through the tweets from MAGA influencers, there's sort of this, they want to own all the political violence. You want to say it's only happening to us. The bullets are only flying one way, I think is a direct quote from one of your tweets.
I fucking hate this shit. Like what this guy's talking about here. This guy is oh, also earlier he talked about Laura Loomer apparently threatening him, which I gotta pull up and find those tweets because that shit was funny as fuck. Laura Loomer is a crazy person.
I've seen that talking point from a lot of other people, but that's simply not the case. Like, there are bullets that are flying at Democratic Party offices. Melissa Hortman was murdered by a 3-time Trump supporter. And then you talk about the truth here. And you talk about, because you said this relative to Barack Obama's tweet. And I'm gonna see if I have it here. I do have it right here. Because Barack Obama tweeted something and everybody was pretty upset about it yesterday because it came a little bit after the Shooter's Manifesto came out. And I don't think they updated this copy before they posted it, which is malpractice, in my opinion. They should have updated it. But Barack Obama said, we don't have the details yet, but this tragedy is horrible. And then you said something which is, this is a lie. The gunman's manifesto has been published 6 hours ago, but it's also a confession, an admission that the motive is damning to President Obama's side, hence the need to lie. Now, I don't know if they were lying, but the point I would make relative to this is, it's a lie to suggest that violence is only happening towards the right, that it's only happening to Donald Trump. If we're counting these 3 incidents, Butler and then the one at Mar-a-Lago and then this one, as assassination attempts, if you stretch that out, then there's actually been 11 assassination attempts against Barack Obama. Butler obviously being far greater than, closer than anybody else has ever been in a very long time trying to assassinate a president. But also, if the lie makes the motive damning, as you suggest about Barack Obama's tweet, then why are so many people lying about Melissa Hortman and her husband's murder? Why don't so many people not want to talk about Gretchen Whitmer almost being kidnapped? Why don't they want to talk about all the instances of it happening? And that's why I'd like to get beyond the sort of like, is it your people or is it my people? Because it's like, there's a lot of deranged, sick people with access to weapons who are trying to hurt one another.
Thank you for the nuanced. Oh my god, Mike Nellis is based. Also, what left-winger like Kash Patel? I thought that was weird in the manifesto. I thought it was really weird why he didn't want to kill Kash. I don't understand. Oh yeah, Shapiro's house being firebombed. That was another one, yeah.
And I don't think it's helpful to just try to blame each other intrinsically in that, if that makes sense.
I
might have misused the word intrinsically.
I so want to get there. I really do. But okay, I'm glad you brought up Melissa Hortman, because she's the example that Democrats often bring up to suggest that the bullets are going in the other direction. The problem is that the man who killed her wrote a confession to the FBI, to Kash Patel, in which he said that Tim Walz had told him to do it. Now,
Bro, the guy was clearly a conspiracy nut. And if you look at like all the other shit related to him, he was obviously a Trump supporter. I don't know why you're just going to say that particular thing outweighs all other evidence that we have that he was a Trump supporter. Okay.
I don't think Tim Walz told him to kill Melissa Hortman. I think he is a deranged individual, but he was clearly not being motivated by a right-wing ideology in the same way that Butler and the second guy who tried to kill Trump and
First of all, the Butler guy wasn't motivated by anything other than that he wanted to kill a presidential candidate. Like, I believe that was what it was mentioned. I don't think, I don't even know how political that guy was. It seemed like he just really wanted to kill a presidential dude. Yeah, Vance Bolter had a, didn't he have, like, he had a list of people, a hit list of people that he wanted to kill. And weren't they all, like, or, like, pro-abortion Democrats or, like, pro-choice Democrats that he wanted to kill? It was just kind of crazy that, like, people would say that he, yeah, I don't know. The sitting governor's residence being firebombed. Ilhan Omar was on the list, I think. Oh yeah, she got attacked by that guy who sprayed that weird stuff on her. I mean, I would count that as political violence, even if like she wasn't killed or whatever. But he had no King's flyer. Yeah, but that might mean that he had those flyers because he was going to go there and commit acts of violence against the attendees.
Third guy who tried to kill Trump, and the guy who killed Charlie Kirk, and all of these other, the guy who firebombed Josh Shapiro's house, Elias Rodriguez, who killed 2 people outside the Jewish.
Okay, yes, Elias Rodriguez was motivated by like crazy loony leftist shit. As far as like the Shapiro firebomb guy, I don't even know. I feel like that's more vague. I know that, you know, he talked about Gaza, but that doesn't mean that he was left wing. Unfortunately, everybody hates Israel nowadays.
Museum, the guy who just tried the 2 ISIS guys who tried to, you know, throw Molotov cocktails in New York City, like these.
Okay, hold on. No, you don't get to say that ISIS Islamic extremists come from the left. No, that is a separate category.
People are all being motivated by a very recognizably left-wing ideology, whereas Melissa Hortman, that was a man who was like just obviously deranged. She said Tim Walz, by the way, a Democrat, had told him to do it. Gretchen Whitmer, I mean, there's been a lot of reporting about how much entrapment went on there. I mean, a lot of that was like, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy.
Oh my God. Yeah, Johan, I'm aware that the left runs defense for them, and that's not good. However, that does not mean that their ideology is left-wing, and I don't think that it's right to lump their ideology in with leftist ideology. That'd be like saying Hamas is leftist just because that morons like Hassan defend them. That's kind of ridiculous. Like, there's a reason why when we are categorizing political violence, Islamic extremism goes in its own category because it is a different thing, and it does not really fit neatly into either one. I mean, it'd be easy to not lump then if people didn't defend it, but it could be a separate category. It already is a separate category, and it should continue to be a separate category. What? Zangor, what are you doing? Why are you typing in Ukrainian in my chat? I don't understand what you're saying. I would still put Islamic extremist political violence under right wing. I mean, it technically is, but the thing is that it's not the same kind of right wing as like American or as like, you know, like Western conservatism. So I don't really think that it's necessarily fair to stick it under that. You should probably just categorize it as its own thing. It makes no sense to blame on Dems regardless if it's lefties defending it. Yeah, that's also true. But I mean, that's the other problem too, right? Like MAGA and like Republicans in general want to say that all political violence, or that like that extremist crazy leftists are they are the Democratic Party. And that's why people like Hassan are so like useful to them, because they can point at Hassan and they can say he represents all Democrats, even though he doesn't. And I think, and that's part of that's like probably like one of the biggest reasons why I think that people like Hassan do need to be excised from the Democratic Party. The other one being because he doesn't actually support or vote for any of the candidates, because Democrats need to make it clear that these people are not like us, and these people don't represent us. They don't represent a majority of us. These people are not part of our ideology. We don't want people who defend terrorists in our party, or who think that like authoritarian regimes like China are awesome. Anyway.
Conspiracy theorist, I think January 6th was January 6th. I don't think it was orchestrated by the FBI, but the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot was, I think a lot of the reporting showed that there were more feds involved in that than non-feds.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that there wasn't like a legitimate attempt there. Just because that the FBI had like heavily infiltrated it doesn't mean that there wasn't actually like a plan, or that those guys weren't going to do anything absent the FBI.
I don't want to say,
Also, Johan, I assume that you're talking about when you're talking about like Islamic extremism or whatever, I assume you're talking about the way that like people on like, I guess the more woke progressive left will kind of like dismiss you if you try to like say anything bad about Islam or talk about Islamism being bad or attack, you know, like the way that at the Women's March they were they had posters of that, what's her name, Linda Sarsour, that lady who was wearing a hijab, who is a, like, she's obviously like a socially conservative Muslim, and like you're basically just not allowed to talk about these things. Yeah, I know. ISIS does do the most damage to Muslims. But I feel like people who will chastise you for talking about Islamism or for like saying bad things about Islam don't fall into the same category of people who or as the people who like would attack you if you dared to say that Islamic extremism is bad. You know. Yes, that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you, Kalinda. And by the way, I think that's cringe. Like, I don't like that. I don't like the way that these people have basically said you're not allowed to talk about like bad things about Islam in the same way that you're allowed to talk about Christianity. And if you do, you're a bigot. And this is only because that there are people on the right who will like attack Muslims and try to say a bunch of dumb shit about how they're coming to take over America or whatever, or like coming to take over the West. And I don't know. Especially since a lot of the same people who are saying this, like people like Lauren Southern, they had so much in common with the social conservative values of these Muslims because they were also socially conservative too. So it was very funny to see them of all people making these complaints about how, you know, like, oh, they're not pro-gay rights. Like, motherfucker, you're not pro-gay rights either. They'll just like to assume stuff about me. Oh, I'm not assuming that about you. Oh, Johan, I'm guessing XBQY. Yeah. Although I don't know. I don't like Islam because I don't like religion. I fucking hate religion. Okay, I don't like social conservative or social conservatism rather. If someone's a Muslim and they're chill and they're not going to try and tell me what to do, then I don't care. You know what? Have fun. Live your life, whatever. Yeah, as long as you're not trying to force your religion on me, then we can all be chill.
I don't want to say that there's nothing on the right. Trump talks in a way that I think is totally beneath the office. When he says, you know, somebody deserves the death penalty, he shouldn't say that. But there's nobody picking up a gun and taking that as orders and going and assassinating people on the left in the way that people on the left.
No, only P. This started before that. Let's not, it wasn't just that. Also, like, also, it is very funny, like, to see her. She's like, oh, you know, the way Trump talks is beneath the office, but also, yeah.
Are hearing the discourse on the right, seeing how.
I legit wish that Only P would make a Discord account and get on Discord and fucking talk to me. Chase, do you have live chat enabled or top chat?
Hassan Pike are elevated by the upper echelons of the elites of the Democratic Party. And
yeah, see, that's not good. This is what I mean. This is why we need to stop. Like, Hassan needs to go the fuck away. I don't know a single lefty who defends Islamic extremism. That's not what I said, Only P. I'm not talking about defending Islamic extremism. Okay? I don't think most leftists defend Islamic extremism unless you're talking about people who are defending Hamas. Nim, she means people like Jon Favreau who are fucking, who are bringing on Hassan. No, Johan, Hassan has not won the party civil war. That is not true. It is not. It is still ongoing. Also, the majority of, by the way, I just would like to tell you, at least, there was a poll in Michigan, and like 88% of Democratic primary voters said they didn't know who the fuck Hassan was. So, yeah, I don't, like, it's not, my issue, though, is that Dems need to realize that Hassan's going to be used to attack them. Is Favreau the Dem party or the Dem base? He was an Obama speechwriter. I feel like he still has some level of influence, at least, in the sense that he's a commentator. He's a Democratic commentator. A lot of Democrats watched him. But yeah, online is not everything, I know. But Anyway, sorry, only P. Well, I wasn't talking about Islamic extremism specifically. When I said that, that's really not what I meant. What I meant is that if you try to, there are certain things that you are not allowed to say about like Islam or about like the Muslim religion. Like, for example, you can't attack like the idea of wearing a hijab and like point out that that's actually not really cool if you're a woman, in the same way as you would attack like Christianity for pushing women to wear modest dress or whatever. Yeah, I know France banned it. I'm talking about in America, XBQY. I'm sure that in Britain things are probably different. But yeah, like that's what I'm referring to. Now maybe this has changed, but I feel like the fact that like they had like that Linda Sarsour person as part of the women's march, and she was wearing a hijab. Like people were trying to like make it seem like the hijab is cool, when like if it was Christians that were wearing hijabs, you would never see this, because the entire idea behind the hijab is basically pushing this ridiculous notion that women that like if women like uncover their hair, then men will be tempted by it. And that men can't control themselves because women are just so tempting, and women need to cover up because of that. Like it's this weird slut-shamey bullshit. And I don't like that. And like when Christians push these kinds of things, we push back against it. But when Muslims do it, you're not allowed to say anything about it. Or at least that's how it used to be. It might be different now. I don't know. Christian women wore head coverings a few generations ago. Yeah, I know, like there are different people. And listen, you know what? If you want to do that, that's fine. I just don't know that I particularly like I guess like valorizing it or whatever, or acting like it's like, so it's just kind of weird that like we make this exception specifically for Islam, but not really necessarily for other religions. I just don't attack religions much simpler. I mean, I can say that I think religions are stupid, which I do, but... Like I said, as long as you're not trying to force it on me, then I don't really care that much. There's no big reason to mandate it either. That would be my biggest contention. There's no reason to oh, what, you mean mandate wearing the hijab? Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't... That's something that I don't like. Or that I wouldn't like, or whatever. And that's like an issue. Anyway.
Then going out, and literally the guy who tried to kill Trump yesterday on Saturday night had a manifesto that called Trump a rapist, a pedophile, a traitor. It was indistinguishable from the kinds of rhetoric you hear from the Democratic Party. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to write it all down so I can go through with it, because you're very good at listing it all out, which I respect about you. So a couple of things in that. Let's
That's called gish galloping, Mike, but it's fine. I think a lot of it is just leftists now wanting to not wanting to criticize brown people because white supremacy. Yeah, that's correct. It is that. It's because they don't want to seem like they're racist. Which, I mean, like, I get, but that's also kind of stupid. I mean, I don't think that you should run up to someone and grab their hijab either. That's an incredibly shitty thing to do. And it's not just because it's a hijab. It's because it's like, you're touching someone without their consent and you're taking their stuff. I've seen hijabs in rural Wisconsin. It's not a problem at all. We have freedom of and from religion here in America. I also see a lot of Amish people here with... Yeah, obviously. That's what I mean. I don't care if people... Like, it's fine. I'm just saying that I just wholeheartedly disagree with, like, the values that it represents. But if people want to wear it, then okay. Obviously, you know, like, America does have freedom of and from religion, which I think is important. Because, yeah, I do think that freedom of religion also means freedom from religion. You know, which I think the Establishment Clause makes pretty clear. But, I mean, I'm not worried about, like, anyone trying to push, like, Sharia law in the United States and forcefully convert everybody to Islam. Or even in Europe, for that matter. I don't really think that that's a problem that people should be worried about. But... Yeah, I'm just saying that... There is only so far that one should take certain things, and yeah.
Pack from backwards for a second. First of all, the second shooter in,
or rather, I just don't like the double standard. No, only leftists will attack and mock and make fun of Christians. Because the Christians are doing lots of stuff.
yeah, I think there's a lot in there, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to write it all down so I can go through with it because you're very good at listing it all out, which I respect about you. So a couple of things in that. Let's
Yeah, and Jews as well. More so too lately. Wait, only P, have you not seen like a gazillion atheist channels? A lot of the people who were a lot of those people are like on the left, or at least they were. One of the guys, that actual Jake dude, that guy started out as like an atheist, who would fight religious people. And then like he turned into a leftist. Well, first he turned into a social democrat, and then later on he basically turned into a fucking socialist, which was lame as fuck. Atheism hasn't completely died, only P. There is still I mean, atheist content creators who like debunk or like make fun of religious people or whatever, that's still a thing that exists, and a lot of those people are left wing. I'm just saying. I just think it's weird is all. Agnostics won in the end. Based! Stand up, my fellow agnostics.
unpack from backwards for a second. First of all, the
just like I just don't like the this is not a thing. Like that's not it is a thing. Maybe it's not like a big thing, but it's a thing that exists. Oh yeah, people still debate evolution and creationism. That's a thing that that happens a shitload. I see those are or like flat earth versus round earth. That shit is constantly on fucking modern day debate. And I just kind of roll my eyes at it. But it doesn't Professor Dave mainly focus on vaccine stuff? I'm sad about Professor Dave, by the way. That guy could have been so based, and then it turned out he was hella fucking brain broken on Israel-Palestine. Jesus Christ.
The second shooter in the Trump, of the three, if we're saying that there's 3 Trump assassination attempts, the second shooter was actually a right-wing person who was angry about the Epstein files and was coming at Trump from that perspective. So he was coming at it from the right, which, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The second one, the one at Mar-a-Lago?
The one at Mar-a-Lago, like he was more right-wing. He was mad about Epstein and was coming at it from that perspective. So I just think it's worth flagging. Like, again, usually, I mean, we could probably argue about that all day, but it's usually the idea. No, it's okay. Usually the ideologies of these guys are not consistent because they're deranged and they're just latching on to something because they get that mentality of I'm gonna go be famous. And if you read the manifesto from the guy on Saturday, like he's a crazy person. Like he was like, I feel responsible for all the blood at Donald Trump's hands. Like all that stuff is just not the way a normal person thinks. I will say, like, I find it exceptionally frustrating that every time there's a clear, obvious incident of right-wing violence, there's some conspiracy theory that disproves it and sort of gives the right inability to like shrug it off. And this is what drives me nuts. So with Tim Walz, that guy's a 3-time Trump voter. Every person that was
oh my god, this guy is spitting facts. This is the same shit that they fucking did to that guy who attacked Paul Pelosi too. They did that too. Like they literally it was like the mental gymnastics were insane. That guy was like a fucking weird, crazy mega conspiracy theorist.
Who knew him was like, oh, he loved Trump. Like he was all about Trump. And the Tim Walz thing is
Democrat appointee, right? He
was on a bipartisan commission where like local Republican officials basically picked their guys and Democrats picked them, but the governor picked them. So like they were a recommendation of the Republicans. That's usually how those type of board. Hang on, just a second. It's frustrating to me because that guy, based on everything that we know, was a Trump guy and deranged, period. And again, I hate this like back and forth of like your people, my people, but like if I have to answer for everything, then you guys have to answer for that stuff too. And the guy voted for Trump. And then you talk about January 6th. And what's frustrating to me, and like you acknowledge that January 6th was a legitimate thing that happened, which I appreciate, but like a lot of people in the MAGA movement don't. They believe that the FBI orchestrated the whole thing, while by the way, simultaneously arguing that it was a day of love and peace and nobody was hurt and all of that. But like Ashley Babbitt was killed trying to break into the House floor with the intent of killing Mike Pence and overturning an election. Like that's what was happening there. But there's a conspiracy theory that conveniently lets people get out of it. And then I'm sure we're going to talk about this at some point, but the Southern Poverty Law Center is the same thing. Like now they've got a conspiracy theory that they've worked backwards from to create a DOJ indictment of that's supposed to justify that Charlottesville was planned by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is ridiculous, and not even what the indictment says. And I know you have it ready to go, so I'm ready to fight about that when you get a second. But like every time it happens, it's, well,
wait, oh, of course she fucking believes that too. Yeah, it's just they just want to they literally just want to undo it. Like they want so badly to just, it's so annoying.
No questions asked.
I mean, one thing if y'all fucking owned it, but no.
these right-wing people were going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, but it's really the FBI's fault. Like, and there's a lot of people on the left that want to do that too, that want to be like, well, this guy was going to do it, but it's a staged thing from Trump. I don't want that. There's violence in America today, political and otherwise, and really the roots of it, in my opinion, are pretty similar, and we're not doing anything about it. And that's what really drives me nuts.
Okay, so I want to call attention to the poll right now. Who is responsible for political violence in America? We've got the left, the right, or both. So we have.
Also, I just want to say this poll is very funny. Like, this is on her stream from her audience. So, I mean, if she's going to try to act like this is some sort of meaningful thing or that this matters, it's funny. Like, this would be like if I did a similar poll. All of you guys are going to think that, that it's the left or that it's the right because this audience is a liberal audience. But my poll said, yeah, it's like when fucking people do Twitter polls and then they act like they represent data when all they really do is just show the biases of your audience. Yeah, they're trying to say that actually they did say it in Charlotte's, or like I think Todd Blanche actually did like make that claim, or he might not have made it, but other people were running with the claim that Charlottesville was all basically just a setup and a psyop orchestrated by the SPLC, just because the SPLC paid informants to give them info on these extremists that they passed along to the FBI. But yeah, it's really sad.
67% saying the left. We have 33% saying both and 0% saying the right. And that's very interesting to me. Again, like this makes me feel like I have this unfair advantage, not just because 67% agree with me, Mike, but because you're meeting me halfway. Like you're saying.
Well, but also
67% of your audience agree with you. Of course they do. They're your audience.
So, like, if we streamed this on my Substack right now, I'd be winning in a landslide.
No,
so, like, that's the way that goes.
Thank you.
This is like, have you ever done a bar fight with Michael Knowles? If you don't get a chance to do it, but like, I was in a room filled with people that were drunk and all voted for Donald Trump, and like, I debated him on Epstein, and you vote at the end, and like about half of the people voted with me, and I looked at Michael, and I was like, absolute victory. I'm never gonna win. If I get above 30%, huge victory for me.
That's amazing. See, this is why you're so precious, because you will go where others are afraid to. All right.
Can I add one more thing before we move on to what I assume is Southern Poverty Lesson, which is Hassan Piker? And like, look, I've never met Hassan Piker. I've never done his show. I mean, if you called, I'd probably do it the same way I do your show. Not to compare you to this.
Oh my God, like, that is.
I'll do anything. I'm shameless. I'll do any show. Okay.
Based.
Except I probably won't do Nick Fuentes because I hate that guy. But like with Piker is like.
Yes, Johan. She also triggers me too. She triggers me and fascinates me. Oh yes, 6'7".
He said some shit that's like horrific, and there's the two clips that are making the rounds this weekend about like let the blood of the capitalists flow through the streets. I'm like, Jesus, like I don't want anything to do with that stuff, okay? And you don't hear me talk like that.
If you really care about Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. That was the other big one.
That's awful. That's bad. That's pretty bad. But I hadn't heard that one. But like the shooter this weekend though, because he had an active Blue Sky account, which by the way, Blue Sky is like the worst. Blue Sky drives me crazy. But like you go on Blue Sky, he's actually crapping all over Hassan Piker. So he did not like Hassan Piker, and there's multiple tweets where he was talking about that emerged earlier today. I just think that's worth pointing out. You also.
I suspect the reason why I didn't like Hassan was because of Hassan's Ukraine stance. Although, of course, by the way, I just gotta say, every time I quote tweet Hassan, my Twitter replies wind up full of like a bunch of like dumbasses who are so eager to defend him. It's very funny. Although this tweet didn't get as many as the last one did, but it's always. It's always entertaining to me. This time it was me calling out Hassan, saying something about how everyone, or how pro-Israel liberals were super eager to tie him to the shooter or something. And I'm like, bro, why does everything have to be about Israel? I don't even think the shooter cared that much about Israel. I think his main thing was Ukraine. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I honestly asked for evidence, and the only like basically they thought that they thought the shooter was wearing an IDF shirt because there was a picture of him wearing a shirt that you couldn't even really see, and it kind of like maybe might have slightly resembled like a shirt that had Israel Defense Forces written on it, but it's not an exact match, and I can't see it, and I'm not confident enough to say with 100% certainty that this is absolutely a thing. And yeah, I just thought that was very funny. Okay.
Also said that Hassan Piker is being elevated by the upper echelon.
Yeah, I'll find that stuff. Remind me, and I'll find the stuff. I'm in an anti-tanky leftist subreddit, and direct Hassan mentions are banned in order to deter his audience from infiltrating the sub. Same with Vosh to deter his anti-fans. Oh, Matt, are you talking about Tanky Jerk? I got banned from that subreddit because I'm active in r/Destiny. And they were like, this means you're right wing. And I'm like, okay, guys, sure. Although, I mean, that sub is like a leftist subreddit. So I was like, alright, fine, fuck y'all. I'm just gonna go hang out in like, Enough Commie Spam, which is a subreddit for liberals to shit on commies, including tankies.
Of the Democratic Party, not a thing that is happening. There is a massive fight inside the Democratic Party right now about whether or not to accept Hassan Piker as a voice. You have one Democrat that went and campaigned with him in the Michigan Senate race, but there are a lot of people who are pushing and fighting. So it's more of like there's a civil war inside the Democratic Party over where his place may or may not be. But I think the idea that Democrats are like elevating him, like he's not appearing with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and yucking it up with Barack Obama. That's not a thing.
He's yucking it up with AOC. He's yucking it up with Ro.
I don't think he's done anything with AOC, has he? He's done Bernie before, I think, and Zohrani did.
AOC, yes, Bernie and AOC. She went on his show multiple times. She did a whole.
I didn't know that.
Him. New York Times elevating him, giving him this cozy interview where he, praised political violence, praised political murder, basically justified the murder of the UHC. Brian Thompson, the CEO who was murdered by Luigi Mangione, praised.
That was wild, by the way. That crazy, weird micro-looting shit. Jesus Christ.
Theft. He is being elevated. I believe you that there are moderates who are trying to keep the party away from that, but he is being elevated by all the Zoran Mamdani, all of the people who are seen as the future, the cool kids, the energy.
But the problem sometimes is the Republican Party runs against ghosts. This is what I describe this problem as, is you have an idea of the Democratic Party that doesn't actually exist. So like the fact that the New York Times ran a profile on him is not indicative of the Democratic Party elevating him.
Abdul El-Sayed is going to win the Democratic primary.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Money on it.
I hope you're right. I really hope.
A steak dinner and a whiskey, if that happens, I'll bet you right now. I believe that we're not. I don't believe that the Democrats are going to nominate El-Sayed. Now, I mean, it's going to be a competitive race. Let's be clear about that. But like,
wait, there's for the audience.
I just want to say that El-Sayed is, he is not even ahead in the polls. It's either going to be Stevens or McMurrow.
The reason Abdul El-Sayed is running against Mallory McMurrow and Haley Stevens, who are two much more moderate Michiganders for Michigan Senate. Abdul El-Sayed, who right now is polling ahead of both women, recently did an event. I saw a poll where he was 47, but yeah, he's been.
The prediction markets have him up a little bit over McMurrow, but all the polling shows him.
I really want this to be true, but the reason we're talking about him is because he did an event and secured the endorsement of Hassan Piker, this influencer who's very pro political violence, which is why we're talking about him. But that is music to my ears. I'm not one of these people on the right who wants the Democrats to nominate the next Hitler so that we can run against it. I want the Democrats to be good. I want them to be wonderful. I want them to represent the working class. I want everybody to be able to get a choice between two great parties. Like that is my dream. So I'm very glad to do that. Okay. So we were on right. So I was saying, yeah, that you're right. Sure. Like maybe there is a ghost, but I had Suha Subramania on my show, who I love. And I said, well, don't you think
Oh, there's still 34% or 36% or 34% of people are undecided, according to this one poll. Damn, that's curious. But in that same poll, Haley Stevens is at 25%, and El-Sayed is at 23%. McMurrow is at 16%. But then there's another poll that has El-Sayed and McMurrow both tied at 24%, but 36% are undecided. So I don't know, maybe just those people just won't vote. I don't fucking know. Oh, wow. Polling from last year, from 2025, shows that, like, in hypothetical polling, Gretchen Whitmer, like, is, like, far ahead of everybody else. That's kind of interesting. But she's not running. In any case, right now it's all within the margin of error. It's quite close. So I don't even know where we're at.
Democrats should not, he's a Democratic congressman, very moderate, middle of the road. So don't you think they should not?
Hello, Fell Runner. Why are the likes not at max? Stuart is asking. He is asking. El Sayed's position on Ukraine is that he wants to support Ukraine, was my understanding. That's part of the reason why there were people who were upset that he platformed Hassan, because Hassan is anti-Ukraine. No, Chase, I don't think that Destiny's position on Israel has anything to do with him being spite-driven or whatever. I don't know why people keep making that assumption, but maybe I'm just like being too good faith. I don't fucking know. But I'm not. He just doesn't strike me as somebody who gets his political, who like forms political positions out of spite, even though everybody wants to make that claim.
Be, you know, campaigning with Hassan Piker, and he was like, well, if it's going to help them get elected, what's the problem? It's not really a ghost. I mean,
you have one Democrat that does one thing, and then suddenly it's the whole party. And this is the thing, is that there's
Zohran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders. This is the
right, but the whole.
Those people are not the whole party.
Wait, there's a difference though between campaigning and appearing on somebody's show. Like let's define the difference though. But yes, and I would like to point out that, like, I think what drives me crazy, and the DC press corps does this all the time, but I think the MAGA movement benefits from this greatly, which is like, again, the Republicans can do a thing. It doesn't speak for every Republican, but one Democrat does something, or like let's say 4 Democrats do something that speaks for the rest of us. And like, I would remind you that one of the president's closest political advisors is Laura Loomer, okay, who is an absolute, I hope you would agree with me on this, an absolute crazy conspiracy theorist, should be persona non grata anywhere, and is somebody who, by the way, direct messaged me a threat against me and my 7-year-old son, which then required me to have the police come to my house and rearrange my entire security. And I didn't see a lot of people, if anybody, on the MAGA right condemn that when it went super viral last year. So like,
okay,
I would just
let me condemn that. I didn't see that. That's horrible. I would argue that the equivalent of Hassan Piker on the right is Nick Fuentes, who every Republican has condemned and come out against.
Every Republican? I don't know about that.
Tucker Carlson
not
is
really.
The minute Tucker Carlson sat down for that interview with Nick Fuentes, that was the end.
I mean, what about JD Vance? JD Vance has been like real quiet. He's just been doing this. I don't care. I want everybody. We're all on one team, and the only thing that matters is beating the Democrats. Like, he's basically refused to condemn any of that.
End of Carlson's influence on the right. He's out. Trump has excised him from the party. He will not be at the next RNC.
Tucker has more.
I think that I think the reason why that's not. Why do we think that Trump excised Tucker from the party, Batya? Do you think maybe do you think it has something to do with the fact that Tucker said like bad things about Trump? I think that's probably the actual reason. The Heritage Foundation defended reaching out to Fuentes, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they did. No, this is not. She is misrepresenting this so hard. This was a big fight. There's a reason why it was a big fight. There's a reason why Ben Shapiro got super mad about it. It is not as simple as like she fucking is making it out to be.
More influence right now, and Tucker might.
And also, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene literally went to AFPAC and spoke there. Now I remember why I didn't like her when she had that long convo with Destiny. Yeah, it's because she loves Trump. It's ridiculous.
Be at the RNC because he might be the Republican Party nominee in 28.
Okay, that his approval ratings are underwater by 60 points on the right.
His numbers have never been higher in the last year.
No, that's just false. I mean,
if you look at his subscriber base, it's growing significantly right now. I mean, I'm not saying it with glee. It's just what it is.
Outside America, like that.
I mean, this could be said for Ben Shapiro though, who's very pro-Israel. So like.
What you think that Tucker Carlson's like it's all non-America? Okay.
Do you acknowledge that Republicans have come out against Nick Fuentes in a way that Democrats have not come out against Hassan Piker?
No. I don't acknowledge that because I don't think that's right. I think there are still a lot of Republicans who refuse to condemn Nick Fuentes. There are still a lot of Republicans who, even when I thought JD Vance's response to the stuff about Nick Fuentes talking about his wife was pretty weak for an alpha male, in my opinion. I thought that was weak sauce. And if somebody came at my wife that way, I would have been much more forceful. But Vance knows that he needs that type of vote to win in the primary.
He did finally come out against him.
Finally, that should be an immediate thing to defend your wife, though, Batya.
But you are condemning him on the masculinity front, which I agree with, but not on the morality front.
I mean, I'm condemning him on all of it, right? Like, I don't I think Nick Fuentes, generally speaking, I think the biggest two weasels in the MAGA movement, quote unquote, are like Nick Fuentes and JD Vance. I can't stand either of them for very different reasons, but they're two of my least favorite people in politics because I don't understand them. I don't understand the way that they talk. I don't understand the way that they engage. But I think that like Piker is a problematic figure. I'm not going to pretend like he's not. He said a lot of things that I disagree with, but like Piker is probably more like Rogan than he is Fuentes, in my opinion, which is like says stupid shit. People go on his show, like whatever. There is a difference between campaigning with somebody and doing their show, though. And like, I just think that's a little bit different.
Who do you admire on the right? Is there
Who do
anybody?
I admire? Oh, it's great. You know what? There's a bunch of different.
I think that I might disagree with that, although I don't know if I would compare Hassan to Fuentes directly because they are two. But I mean, like, they do represent like the extreme. They both represent the extreme ends of their respective like political movements, and they both don't like Jewish people, and they both will like spew populist rhetoric. And when they talk about Israel, they sound very similar. At least Israel, not like the Jews, obviously, because, you know, like left and right anti-Semitism don't look exactly the same. But yeah, I don't really agree with that. I don't think Hassan is more equivalent. Like Joe Rogan is not, or at least didn't used to be political. Yeah. Well, yeah, Pensive Goat, that's what I mean. Hassan is what Hassan says has anti-Semitic outcomes, because he's anti-Zionist, and anti-Zionism has anti-Semitic outcomes. And there is also like, you know, a core anti-Semitism in there as well too, but it depends on like how that anti-Zionism manifests. It like makes it slightly more complicated. But at the end of the day, like you could argue it's basically just a distinction without a difference. But yeah, like left-wing anti-Semitism does not look the same as right-wing anti-Semitism. Right-wing anti-Semitism, like they're like, I fucking hate Jews. And left-wing anti-Semitism is like, I really hate Israel and I don't think it has a right to exist. And then this manifests in like anti-Semitic shit. You know, where like you have this weird double standard about Israel and like you focus on it relentlessly over literally anything else, and it's very fucking weird. What? Oh. Oh. I decided to be a moron and fucking argue with Debate Boar. On like trans shit. But then I looked up but then I asked the Clanker a bunch of questions about studies, and I feel quite a bit more confident now. Because honestly, I just don't think that he thinks that it's real, but or at least not in the same way that I do. Okay, let's go.
Wait, hold on. While you think about that, let's put up the second poll because we got to call it soon. So you think about that. Second poll going up now, share. Guys, we always ask at the end of our conversation, did you hear something here that helped you understand the other side? So weigh in on that while Mike does something very patriotic and tells us someone on the right that he admires.
Okay. I have
Oh, also, I just want to say that oh, also someone on the I mean, it's pretty easy to answer the question someone on the right that you admire. Like Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, fuck, what's his name? Bill Kristol. Basically any never Trump Republican would be people that I would admire. Oh, Tally, I don't know. I have a lot of disagreement with you, but you're cool. I also don't even know, like, you're not even like super, yeah. Oh yeah, Mitt Romney. You know, like, yeah, sure, I disagree with them, but there are people who actually stood up for their principles instead of, like, fucking cucking out to Trump. No, Tally's not right about everything, Johan, but...
There's a couple. I'm debating a couple. So, like, I admire Josh Hawley when he talks about monopolies in particular, when he takes on big tech. I think there's some good stuff there. I admire Tucker Carlson a little bit because when he talks about economic issues, there's a lot of populism in there that I like.
Oh no, Mike, don't do it. Stop. No, you were being so based. Don't turn out to be a brain dead populist.
Our mutual friend Leland Vittert, who he would hate to find out that I think he's on the right because he he thinks he's a moderate. And I laugh at him every time he does. That'd be like me arguing that I'm like a Republican. But like, Leland stood up for what he believed in when he was at Fox, and I think it was a little bit public. I don't want to get too down in it because it's his story, not mine. But like, I think he's a good human being that you can have a conversation with. If you go like a little bit further out to like the podcast world where like some of these folks have like maybe turned against Trump, but I would still think that they're like the right. Like I think Theo Von is a goof, but like seems like he has a good heart. So there's people out there that I like. Like I try to listen to everybody. Like there's things that Jordan Peterson says that, and I think there's also things Jordan Peterson says that makes me want to tear my hair out. But like there's sometimes he says a thing about like man's value in world. And like I've read his book,
The 10 rules.
The 10 rules. Yeah, I forget exactly what it was called.
12
But I
rules.
thought there's some nuggets of wisdom in there that I think are valuable. So like I tend to try to listen to everybody. I have some begrudging respect for Donald Trump. Like he's incredible at creating attention for himself. He's very good at identifying the problems that make people hate politicians. I think he's very bad at solving those problems. But I think he's really good at identifying like those third rail things that like Democrats and Republicans are afraid to talk about, because he was absolutely right about the border on the critique. He was absolutely right about government waste, fraud, and abuse. And Democrats sometimes don't want to talk about that, which is ridiculous. I think he was really bad at dealing with those issues. Maybe the border I'll give him some credit on, but those are like the ones.
Wait, what do you mean about government waste, fraud, and abuse? Really? Where? What are you talking about? Doge didn't do shit.
That immediately come to mind. I'm not a hater by it. Like if I think you're trying to solve a problem, I'll call it out. I don't care. I'm not a sycophant.
All right, finally, how do we solve this problem? Like, how do we move forward from here as a nation?
So I think we have to I think the incentive structures are broken. That's the number one thing. And I think that's just, if you look at everything that's broken in our politics today, if the incentive structure for somebody to be famous and influential is to like rush to the internet and get that first shitty take out there, we're always going to be screwed, because people are going to listen to the so-and-so on this side or the so-and-so on that side that justifies the worldview. And the incentive structures are like for instance, on Saturday night, when I shot my YouTube video about what had happened, I shot like a sober, take 10 minutes straight to camera. Like if I had done a video that was like Donald Trump staged this entire thing to save his presidency, I would have made way more money. I would have gotten way more followers, and I won't do that. But like the same with the MAGA right, like immediately blaming Democrats, I think was wrong. I love you, Batya, I really do. But like I think some of the like posts that you threw up there about like bullets are only flying one way, I think also is sort of the same thing of that. I'm sure if you pulled some of mine, there might not be 100% like where I would be proud of them in the midst of this conversation. But like if we can get beyond that, if we can deal that sort of like incentive structure and get back to just like actually talking and solving these issues, that's where we've got to go. It can't just be like knee jerk, we're blaming each other for everything every single time and just trying to like one up each other. Like you said at the beginning, I want to win this debate or something like that in the context of it. Nobody wins these debates. Like nobody does, whether it's here or like CNN or my show or anything else. Like nobody wins these. Like you're either like reinforcing what a group of people already think, or everybody ends up hating the two of us because we're like fighting. Not you and I necessarily. This has been a good conversation, but like there's this illusion of debate and friction on CNN. And I'm sorry if I'm taking up all the time. I apologize.
No, not at all. I so want to go there, but it seems to me that in the moment when the bullets, literally the moment where the bullets are flying at the right, it's sort of to ask us to unify around the idea that we bear some of the responsibility.
I mean, Tally, like, yeah, I don't think naming Tucker and Theo Von is good, but yeah, this guy was so based up until he started saying that, just because that, oh god, that means that he's like a fucking populist, which is lame and stupid as fuck. I don't think that, like, Tucker doesn't care about working class people, alright? He just doesn't. And, like, that's not even where he's coming from when he talks about this shit. So, yeah, that stuff's pretty fucking annoying. Yeah, I liked him on Live and Learn. Oh, I never even saw Mike Nellis on Live and Learn. But I liked the nuance that he was willing to bring to this conversation. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he is actually more nuanced overall. If he wants to have, like, I guess, nuanced engagement with populism, that's fine, but... Ugh. I don't know, I just hate populism so much.
Responsibility for that. It seems to me like I cannot unify around a lie as much as I want to, and the left, I can't imagine them like being asked to bear responsibility when they literally in the moment of them being victimized. All right, we got to leave it there. I want to read the results of the poll though. 50-50, that's really good, Mike. Sometimes it's worse than that. So thank you so much for doing this. God bless and protect you. I really hope you'll come back soon. I just love talking to you. I feel like we are able to kind of create, even just in this conversation, the America we want to live in. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Batya. Appreciate it.
Also, I legitimately hate the weird, oh my god, we're having a conversation and that's so cool shit. Because it's so empty. And it just is so meaningless. Okay.
All right. And the rest of you, come back tomorrow. We'll have another debate for you on the biggest news story of the day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for voting in the poll.
Okay, let me just grab this ship, and then I will, and then I'll pull up some of the other videos. Okay. Just need to turn around. Go over to that island so I can find the buried treasure. True, stop thinking Hassan is the left. I mean, Hassan is on the left, but he's on the far left. The actual truth is that you have to stop thinking Hassan is a fucking Democrat, because he's not. Or that he is liberal, because he's not. Yeah. Oh no, don't worry guys, there's more. I'm not done yet. Hold on. Oh god, this is from fucking Rising. This is from 3 years ago. I wanted to hear what she had to say about Ukraine. Oh shit. Whatever. I literally just ran into the shore. Good one. Okay. This should be fun.
Batya, what's on your radar?
Wait, was she on? Wait, was she Crystal Ball's replacement? In 2022? Or was she just filling in? A weekly bipartisan show? Was she supposed to be the left-winger on this show?
If I told you the US had $10 billion lying around to be spent on an important project, I'm sure that each of you could come up with something worthy. Maybe we split it up and give 10 million families $1,000 each to help with
Oh my god, she's gonna do it! She's gonna do the thing! She's gonna do the America can't walk and chew gum at the same time! The United States of America, the most richest country on the planet, can't fucking afford to send military aid to a country that's being illegally invaded, whilst also looking after its citizens. No, America can't do both of these things. Ah!
gas and groceries during this difficult time. Maybe we use it to invest in building another semiconductor fab, reshoring manufacturing, and investing in national security. Maybe you'd want to see that money go toward pay raises for nurses' aides doing sacred, backbreaking work caring.
Wait, what do you mean that money go toward? You realize it's hospitals that are paying the nurses, are they not? Are you talking about like nurses that are being paid by Medicare? What are you referring to here?
For the elderly, or for hiring bonuses for teachers in public schools, or police recruitment and training, or drug rehab programs, which are prohibitively expensive. I wonder, though, how many Americans would put sending drones to Ukraine on their list? And yet, that is exactly what the US government has done. The total amount of military assistance the US has shipped to Ukraine since Russia invaded in February is now $10.6 billion. This includes the latest shipment of $775 million worth of mine resistance vehicles, drones, and new missile systems. This latest package is the
oh no
19th one we're sending. Defense officials said they are looking at ways to, quote, potentially help Ukraine retake more territory from the Russians. We will continue to consult with the Ukrainians to make sure that we are providing them what they need when they need it, a senior defense official told the Wall Street Journal on Friday. Really? What about what we need when we need it? What exactly is our national interest in helping Ukraine retake more territory from the Russians?
Gee, I don't know. Because that, like, it would be better if we didn't normalize nations getting fucking invaded in Europe. A country where, like, this hasn't really been a thing since World War II. Or, sorry, a continent, a country. Because a stable Europe is generally good for everybody, because America has military bases there, because you don't want to send the message to other countries that it would be, like, fucking awesome to just let this happen. Because, like, Ukraine is, like, an ally of the United States. Really? It's so I hate that this is a question that people still ask, although I know that it is.
If it were of such national interest that Crimea or the Donbas region belonged to Ukraine instead of Russia or Russia-backed separatists, surely we would have gotten involved in the conflict back when it began in 2014. That's when...
I mean, America should have gotten involved, but just because they fucking didn't doesn't mean that, It doesn't mean that, like, it's okay now.
Russian President Vladimir Putin invaded and annexed the Crimean Peninsula, a move that a referendum found was popular among Crimeans, though the referendum was contested by the international community.
Well, thanks for at least saying that.
Then there's the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine. After the 2014 Euromaidan revolution that ousted the pro-Russia Prime
At least she didn't say it was a coup.
Minister Viktor Yanukovych, massive pro-Russia protests swept eastern Ukraine, home to
hold on, let me not judge just a sec. No, Pensive, the United States didn't start sending lethal military aid to Ukraine until, like, 2017.
many ethnic Russians. These protests escalated into a war in the Donbas, where Russia-backed separatists in Donetsk and Lugansk eventually...
But why do people say it like that? I thought it was Luhansk. Donetsk and Luhansk. I didn't think it was, Lugansk. Is that correct? That's weird. Anyway, Jesus Christ, no, holy fucking shit. That is such a weird twisting. It was way more complicated than that. First of all, like, she makes it sound like those protests were organic. And I mean, yeah, some of them were. There were people who were out in the streets that were doing that, but a lot of that stuff was fueled by Russia. And the violence most certainly started because of Russia, because we know that areas where Russia got involved is where there were actually, like, military uprisings. It took Igor Girkin and his goons going in there and taking over federal buildings in Sloviansk, or taking over administrative buildings, I should say, in order to really kick that off. Like, I think he even went on TV later and said that that this wouldn't have or this never happened in other parts of the country because we weren't there to help it happen. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is the soft propaganda, where she's making it seem like, yes, people in Donbass, in East Ukraine, or in Donetsk and Luhansk specifically, were more pro-Russia or wanted to be closer to Russia. But if you poll them, they still said, by and large, or like they still consider themselves to be Ukrainian. And even today, if you look at polling data, a majority of them would still like to be in Ukraine, even if they want to be in a more autonomous region. I don't know, like, this is like a weird one-sided telling that leaves out so much shit. Not to mention the fact that Russia actually sent, like, people, like, there were literally campaigns in Russia looking for volunteers to go over the border and protest alongside you, separatist Ukrainians or pro-Russia Ukrainians or whatever, in order to inflate the number of people that were at those protests. And there were a few instances where they actually did things that made Ukrainians upset, like tearing down Ukrainian flags and replacing them with Russian ones and shit. Because, like, that's not necessarily what these people wanted. They didn't necessarily want to leave Ukraine and join Russia. Certainly not all of them. That was a minority of people. Even up to, like, the start of the war. They just didn't like... They just wanted to, like, stay close to Russia. And these two things are very different. This is what all the polling data shows us. There's also, like, a bunch of shit with regards to, like, why people in Donbass felt the way that they did, and, like, what their concerns were, and a lot of this other shit, and it's, like, this is actually where there is some level of nuance. You know, like, when people say that, like, Euromaidan was overwhelmingly supported by everybody. That's not true. But, like, it's not... It's more complicated than people make it seem. And regardless, it doesn't matter. That doesn't justify Russia fucking meddling. Anyway.
Took control and seceded from Ukraine, becoming self-declared republics with overwhelming support from the local populations, at least.
No, that's not true either. No, there was not overwhelming support for, like, leaving Ukraine. There was a lot of support for federalization and having, like, an autonomous republic, you know, like Crimea. But no, there wasn't. That's a lie. This is, like, just Russian bullshit. Oh, yeah, a lot of people fled, too. A shitload of people fled.
At the time, the separatist republics and Ukraine signed what's called the Minsk Protocol, which called for the...
By the way, she's leaving a whole bunch of stuff out here. That Minsk Protocol got signed because Russia won the battle of I'm gonna mispronounce it, Ilovaisk. Russia won that battle, and they forced Ukraine to come to the table to make that deal. Oh God.
The reintegration of the Donbas into Ukraine, but with a level of autonomy. And that agreement, of course, Putin essentially erased when he recognized the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk.
Well, I'm so glad that she mentioned that that was the case. Doesn't Dylan know someone who fled from Donetsk? Yeah, I believe that he does. He might know more than one person.
Just before invading Ukraine in February of this year.
Oh, also, somebody said above that people were saying like Lugansk because the G is pronounced like H. I thought that it wasn't spelled. Does it have like a... Maybe I'm forgetting how it's spelled, but yeah.
But this is a crucial point. Putin didn't recognize the Donbas as part of Russia, but rather as an independent buffer zone.
Yeah, that's because and I know this now because that Arthur told me. Thank you, Arthur, for educating all of us during one of his Russia segments. The reason why they did that is because that Russian law requires that a region needs to be independent before it can be accepted to become part of Russia. So they had to do that. That was a thing that they needed to do. Now, I don't know why they didn't do that with Crimea. That was kind of weird because they basically just annexed Crimea. But with Donetsk and Luhansk, that was like a sneaky trick that they did. It was also for propaganda to fool people like you.
Between Russia and Ukraine. More importantly, Putin's recognition of the separatist republics as independent was a recognition of the status quo. Donetsk and Lugansk were independent in February of this year.
No, they just said that they were. Nobody recognized that because you can't just do that. You can't just declare independence and then like become like
Exactly is the U.S. national interest in paying $10 billion to change that status quo? I understand wanting to support our allies.
Because Russia wants to take over Ukraine, you dumbass. They literally want to take over all of it. If they only cared about Donbass, then why the fuck were they dispatching, like, why did they try to, like, kill Zelensky? It's pretty clear that they literally, like, they either want all of Ukraine to be part of Russia, or they wanted to turn Ukraine into, like, a rump state. Actually, I believe that was the first option. That's mainly what they were, or that was, like, their main plan.
But if the argument is that Putin's invasion of Ukraine was evil because of the lives lost, an argument that I wholly agree with.
I mean, yeah, that's part of it, but you can also, like, say that it is in America's interest to have a stable Europe. We don't have Russia, like, fucking invading our neighbors all the time.
Surely the opposite of that, the position of virtue, would have been to end the killing as soon as possible.
No, don't do this anti-war garbage. Ending the killing as soon as possible leaves, like, millions of people under Russian control. Where, like, they can deal with, like... You think Ukrainians are going to agree to that after Bucha?
Instead, we've chosen to prolong it, arming Ukraine to the level that it now thinks it can win this conflict and, quote, retake more territory from Russia, as the security official put it. We took away any incentive for Ukraine to come to the table and negotiate.
Why should they? It's their country. If they want to fight for it, then let them do that.
Opposite, we signaled that we were in this fight for, quote, as long as it takes, as President Biden put it, when asked whether we would be supporting Ukraine indefinitely.
I mean, why the fuck not? It's not like America can't continue to find ways to support or whatever. You think that I can't. I hate this shit. I cannot believe, like, the United States of America is the most powerful fucking country in the world. They are the richest fucking country in the world. Are you seriously trying to tell me, what kind of American are you? That you think that the US can't walk and chew gum at the same time? What the actual fuck? Ah! Yeah, oh yeah, this video was pre-offensive in late 2022. Oh, really? Well, that makes it even worse, because Ukraine showed that they absolutely could take back territory. Territory which, by the way, Russia hasn't even reclaimed all of the territory that they lost in 2022.
G7 leaders this week pledged to support Ukraine, quote, for as long as it takes. And I'm wondering if you would explain what that means to the American people, for as long as it takes. Does it mean indefinite support from the United States for Ukraine? Or will there come a time when you have to say to President Zelensky that the United States...
Oh yeah, Ukraine would accept a ceasefire and an end to the killing. They're just not going to do it on Russia's terms. I wasn't the one to tell you Russian law requires independent states ascend, I don't think. And it def happened for Crimea. Weren't you? I could have swore that I learned that from you. Or like, it was in, I thought it was in like a call between you and Zan. Yeah, it was. It was the day when you started looking at the Russian Constitution. And like, I believe that that was in there. And you were trying to explain that. And like, that was like the reason why they did that. It also probably just looks better too. You know, like they were trying to like pave it over or whatever. That's why they do all this weird sham referendum shit.
cannot support his country any longer. Thank you.
We are going to support Ukraine as long as it takes.
You heard the man, as long as it takes. As gas prices skyrocketed by 50%, we doubled down on prolonging a conflict that kept gas prices higher by sanctioning Russia and its oil. And if you complained, you were called a Putin stooge, shown pictures of Ukrainian...
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's just kind of shitty that you're just like, well, you know what, fuck it. They just gotta suck it up and deal with it. Because, like, our economics or whatever the fuck. When the United States is, like, in a position to help. And also, not just the United States, Europe, everybody else, too. Like, all of these other people should have gotten off Russian oil. Then maybe oil prices wouldn't have gone back, or wouldn't, like, be super high, or whatever.
Casualties and told to buy an electric car. Of course, I believe territorial sovereignty is important.
Electric cars are based. Also, by the way, this is super rich coming from somebody who is pro-Israel, who loves Israel so much. Like, oh my god. It's actually, like, even more gross to have someone who understands, like, what it's like when a country that you, like, feel a kinship or identify, or, like, you know, like, I'm not gonna say that she's, like, loyal to Israel or whatever, but I'm sure she loves Israel very much. Right now, Ukraine is facing an existential threat. Yeah, sorry, small f. And a second small f. We should be good now. No, it's not, Pat, it's not all just YouTube. It was also my, my fucking, my connection too. Gas is $4.29 a gallon right now under Biden. It was $4.40 to $4.60 a gallon. What was it like that the entire time under Biden? I remember Destiny talking to her. I know her talking points about Ukraine. Oh yeah, someone timestamped the Destiny convo he had with her, so I'd be curious about that, but I refuse to miss an opportunity to shit-talk the YouTube mobile app. You know what, Pat? I completely understand. The YouTube mobile app's got a lot of problems. It's gotten better, but sometimes it just gets worse. And by the way, I pay for or I don't pay for it, rather, but I am on my brother's premium plan.
I think Putin's invasion was a terrible mistake that cost many lives, but the conflict could have been ended just 2 weeks after the invasion.
Oh no, she's gonna say it!
And Putin put 3 conditions on the table for immediately withdrawing troops. Russia told Ukraine in the first week of March that it was ready to halt military operations, quote, in a moment, if Ukraine met 3 conditions. It must acknowledge Crimea as Russian territory, recognize the separatist republics of Donetsk and Lugansk, and change its constitution to enshrine neutrality, meaning that it would no longer be seeking membership in NATO. It is crucial to know.
What? Okay, first of all, Ukraine, like, in general, seems to, like, have been, with regards to, like, neutrality or whatever, but also, how about fuck you? How about fuck no? What the fuck? Why? Why should they do that? Retards are retarding. Are we doing React slot for content, or is there a broader point? Yes, Arthur, we were doing React slot for content. Oh yeah, no mention of being disarmed. Well, she showed it on the screen, even though she didn't read it out. But yeah, that was another thing that they wanted. Like, they basically just wanted Ukraine to, you know... yeah, I believe that Ukraine's neutrality is in the Constitution. I remember seeing that. Did anyone consider writing a fanfic about her and Lactoid? Oh my god. I think Lactoid defends the invasion more than she does, but... Yeah. I don't, like... That's so shitty. You're basically saying that, like, a shitload of people who fled from Donbass can never go back to their homes because they have to be recognized as, like, Russian territory. Which, I mean, by the way, this being, like, after, like, the Bucha massacre and everything. It's just dumb, and I hate it. All this is so fucking stupid.
Note that these 3 conditions were all already de facto true at the time of Putin's invasion, meaning he was willing to end the conflict just
Me in Discord while I'm watching something else. This shit makes me step out though. Yeah, I completely get it. People like her scare me, to be honest. She's so nice, soft-spoken that it can fool you. Yeah, I know. Destiny said that about her too.
You think that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky would never accept such conditions? That same day, he told ABC's John Muir that he was open to compromise on all 3. Here's the
Yeah, compromise on all 3, meaning that he wasn't gonna, like, just accept all of that.
That clip, which aired on March 7th.
Mr. President, I wanted to get your reaction to what the Kremlin announced just a short time ago. They called these conditions to end this war. They said you must change your constitution to give up your wishes to join NATO, that you should recognize...
Did Ukraine put joining NATO in the constitution? That being said, like, I mean, fuck that. If Ukraine wants to join NATO, they should be able to join NATO. Russia, fuck that.
Crimea as part of Russia, and that you recognize the independence of those 2 Russian separatist regions in the east. Are you willing to go along with all 3 of those conditions? What is your message to Vladimir Putin right now?
First, I'm ready for a dialogue. We're not ready for the capitulation because it's not me. This is about the people who elected me.
By the way, if Zelensky tried to go along with that, the people of Ukraine would have been out in the streets protesting until they threw him out of office. Just saying. I don't even know if today they would go along with that. Maybe Crimea, but the rest of it, I don't know. Like, they might be open to, like they're open to some sort of negotiated settlement, but it's not just going to be let's just surrender, you know, like Well, I think this must have been the start of the negotiations. This is before the shit with Boris Johnson that everybody likes to talk about. I'm curious if she'll bring that up.
Regarding NATO, I have cooled down regarding this question a long time ago. After we understood that that NATO is not prepared to accept Ukraine, the alliance is afraid of controversial things and confrontation with Russia. I never wanted to be a country which is begging something on its knees. And we're not going to be that country, and I don't want to be that president.
When the Kremlin says these 3 conditions to end the war, that you must give up on joining NATO, recognize Crimea as part of Russia, and recognize the independence of those 2 separatist regions in the east, to Vladimir Putin, who will get this message from you, you say it's a non-starter, not willing to those 3 conditions right now?
I'm talking about security guarantees. I think that items regarding temporary occupied territories and unrecognized republics that have not been recognized by anyone but Russia, these pseudo-republics. But we can discuss and find a compromise on how these territories will live on.
So what happened? Zelensky was willing to compromise. Why did nobody push him to? Why
Well, they tried to compromise. That was the talks that they went to.
did we choose instead to send $10 billion to Ukraine, prolonging the suffering there and the high gas prices here?
She's leaving out so much.
And stealing from our...
Like, she's leaving out the Bucha massacre. She's leaving out, like, the way how those talks went when they started talking to each other. Like, she's leaving out, like, how angry Ukrainians were. It's so much is being left out here. This is so one-sided. Just, like, to push her stupid narrative.
Own citizens for a goal that just isn't clear how it's in our national interest. I really wish I knew the answer to that. Why, as soon as we ended one forever war in Afghanistan, we had to start another one in Eastern Europe. Why Ukrainian membership in NATO...
What? You didn't say... What? What? Yeah, I know. That's true. She should, horny mind. She should. She should hate Israel for the Iran conflict and oil/gas prices. But, you know, obviously, because she has a personal connection to Israel, that's going to be different for her. Like, what? The U.S. didn't start it. I hate how people compare this to Iraq and Afghanistan. It pisses me off. It's so fucking stupid and annoying. People in the majority report were doing the same shit, too. Giving, like, aid and military... Like, giving, like, military weapons and intelligence to a country is not the same thing as sending your own troops in. Like, it's not. America's not fighting the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting it. And they're doing it with, like, the help of America. And also, like, Europeans... Although, not as much as I would like, but yeah. and the Canadians, too. Although, again, like, we could do more, but yeah. It's cool that we've given some stuff. Like, winter gear.
NATO is of any national interest to the U.S. whatsoever, let alone to the tune of $10 billion. I wish someone could explain to me why the only people voting against sending billions and billions of U.S. to the tune of $10 billion. Iranian membership in as soon as is of any national interest to the U.S. whatsoever, let alone to the tune of $10 billion. I wish someone could explain to me why the only people...
I mean, it's... So what is the consensus on this lady? Bad faith or regarded... I think it's probably stupid. Yeah, Arthur, I understand that, but I enjoy, like, doing this kind of stuff, too. Like, it is fun. Like, this makes me angry, but this is so much more interesting to me because that I haven't really engaged with these arguments that much. Oh God, she talked to fucking Steve Bannon too. Yeah, I think she's just an idiot. This lady does kind of fascinate me though. Like, yeah. Huh. Wait, she believed in the Ukrainian biolabs? Wait, really? Oh my god. It seemed like she wasn't too far on the conspiracy train. I knew you would enjoy banning oh god. Yeah, we'll see.
Voting against sending billions and billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to fight a battle over Luhansk.
Also, I just want to say, Arthur, like, you might say this is slop, but unfortunately, like, there are lots of people who watch and, like, hold these opinions, and it ain't good. And I think it's good for me to familiarize myself with these kinds of arguments if I want to debate these people. You mean Epstein's friend, Steve Bannon? Yes. The reason why I was kind of surprised about that particular conspiracy shit is just because that, it's not... Like, she doesn't even think Euromaidan is a coup, or at least in this video she didn't say. Yes, the state of politics is currently slop, which is incredibly sad. Sends money, but against USA support, yeah.
Are MAGA folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I feel very sorry for the Ukrainian people, but I was elected to represent my district in Georgia, said Greene, making a lot of sense. I feel very...
Oh, yes. Have we gotten to the part where Marjorie Taylor Greene has pushed weird conspiracy theories about Ukraine?
sorry for the Ukrainian people, but I was elected to represent my district in Georgia for the United States of America. And right now our country's in crisis. Our border is out of control. Human trafficking, fentanyl. We have inflation out of control. Gas prices out of control. I mean, it's
We can't walk and chew gum at the same time. We're a pathetic, shitty country. We're not actually the richest country in the world. Jesus Christ. Ukraine banned Christianity, by the way. Oh, I'm sure she probably had something to say about that. Actually, it wouldn't surprise me if MTG did bitch and whine and cry about that, but had nothing to say about, like, Russian persecution of Christians who were not, like, Russian Orthodox. Because that's a thing that they do, by the way.
baby formula. Baby formula. People cannot find baby formula.
Oh yeah, I know MTG's an isolationist pragmatic American, but she's more than that. Like, she's also, like, I'm pretty sure, like, didn't she praise Putin? I believe that she did. MTG said Russian Christianity oppression a bit. Did she? She probably only hates Ukraine because Zelensky is Jewish. That might be.
Such a shortage. But our Congress is going to send $40 billion to some other country, and they're doing, you know what we did today? We named post offices. So no, when this Congress wants to care about America and our people and do something with our people's tax dollars for our country and do the right things, then we...
This is that zero-sum game shit. It's all that. It's like, we can't help other people because then that means that we are losing something. It can't be that we're doing both things.
We can talk about other countries, but it's ridiculous.
As for the anti-war left, they're still braying about Trump being a Putin plant. People have argued that for Zelensky to negotiate with Putin would be to reward Putin for his bad behavior. And I'm, of course, sympathetic to that
yeah, appeasement. Hello.
Argument from a moral point of view. But this isn't a morality play. There are civilian lives at stake. And while, let me say this again, I think Putin's invasion of Ukraine was horrible.
Oh God, here it comes. It's the unbombed shit. It's the privileged. I'm an American and I don't know what it's like to live in a country that faces an existential threat from your big neighbor. It's unbombed plus 2 oceans.
Horrifying morally and disastrous politically, thuggish and murderous behavior. There seems to me little evidence that his territorial ambitions extended beyond the eastern side of Ukraine, which has at least since...
Oh no, there's evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what the fuck? Remember, we're talking about Vladimir. The collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. Putin, by the way. The same guy who was fucking around in Georgia and who did that in Moldova with that Transnistria thing. Like, really? Did you not read his essay, the 2021 essay, where he said that Ukrainians and Russians were like the same people? He doesn't think Ukraine is real. He thinks that Ukraine is like a fake country that was invented by the West to hurt Russia. Yeah, I think that he did, yeah. Like, the only way that Putin was ever going to let Ukraine be, like, or continue to exist as a country that was in any way separate. Oh, was it 2022? No, it was in 2021, because 2022 was the invasion. The only way Ukraine was ever going to let, or Russia was ever going to let Ukraine continue to exist as a country that, like, maintained any kind of separation from Russia, no matter how small, was if it was, like, a fucking puppet state. Where they killed Zelensky and then they put in a pro-Russian leader who became, like, a dictator. So, like, they just wanted to turn it into another version of Belarus. And if it couldn't function like that, then yeah, they totally take it over if they felt like that was necessary.
The Orange Revolution been part of a tug of war between Russia and the US. And the question of rewarding bad behavior is really mostly applicable if the perpetrator is likely to reoffend. Something that is very unlikely.
Wait, hold on.
There seems to me little evidence that his territorial ambitions extended beyond the eastern side of Ukraine, which has, at least since the Orange Revolution, been part of a tug of war between Russia and the US.
Oh my God. Ukrainians have no agency, folks. As per usual. They don't get to decide anything. It's all just a proxy. They're just an American proxy. And the US is just using them to fight. What? She knows about the Orange... I don't think she knows anything about the Orange Revolution. If I recall correctly, and I don't know that much about the Orange Revolution myself, but my understanding is that the Orange Revolution is a thing that occurred where they kicked Yanukovych out of office because he rigged the election. And people were real mad about that. Wasn't it part of a sovereign state called Ukraine? Yes. Yes, Ukraine is a sovereign state. Listen, mate, U.S. promised not to expand NATO source. Trust me, bro. True. Yep.
And the question of rewarding bad behavior is really mostly applicable if the perpetrator is likely to reoffend.
Putin has reoffended. What do you mean reoffend? This is like Putin's third reoffense, bro. Really?
Something that is very unlikely given.
No, I'm sorry, his fourth. Like, you got Chechnya, although I suppose you could say that that's kind of different, but I mean, it sort of shows you like the way of like the Russian playbook works. And then you've got like Georgia and you've got Moldova. And they're also like starting to try to do this shit in where is it? Is it Estonia? Where's the weird, like, Russia's trying to like stoke another breakaway republic in one of these Eastern European countries, but this one's actually in NATO. What the fuck is it called? No, not Transnistria. Oh, Narva. That's it. The Narva Republic. Or Navra. No, Narva.
Narva.
Yeah.
Just,
I don't know. Yeah?
This is slop, okay? And the whole conception that she's presenting is, we should expect from slop, retarded.
Well, yeah, of
right?
course it is. I don't know what do you think this stream is going to be, is not going to be slop? Obviously it is. The people demand slop. Sometimes it's going to be slop.
I think there are serious responses to slop. Like, for example, the appeal to civilians being killed and not being bad, or that Ukraine should surrender. There's a way to make that argument seriously, and it wouldn't be retarded as a result. It would be wrong still, but it would be at least more useful to engage with.
Online and ammunition depot. Remember when President Trump said we were the biggest countries offered Ukraine? Europe has decided it is no longer interested in funding this conflict. Throughout July, Europe's 6 biggest countries offered Ukraine no new military commitments. Remember when President Trump said we were patsies for being the only ones funding NATO? Thanks to our military aid, Ukraine has been able to hit Russia in Sevastopol, Crimea, as well as deep behind the front line. An ammunition depot in the Belgorod region was set on fire on Thursday, and U.S. mobile rocket launchers hit Luhansk last week. Now, both Russia and Ukraine are accusing each other of planning to attack a Russian-occupied nuclear plant, Europe's largest nuclear power station. The Russians have control of the power station, but it's being manned by Ukrainians, allowing both sides to predict false flag operations. The world is on a verge of nuclear disaster, tweeted Zelensky this weekend. How long will it take the global community to respond to Russia's irresponsible actions and nuclear blackmailing? There's some irony to Zelensky's tweet. In what universe has the global community ignored Russia's invasion? Recall as well that Zelensky's first demand during the conflict was for the U.S. to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine.
I mean, they should have done, oh boy, here it comes. It's nuclear war, fear-mongering time.
Which would have turned this from a proxy U.S.-Russia war into an actual nuclear U.S.-Russia war.
It's, no, it wouldn't. What? Oh my fucking God. Yes, because Putin totally would like, risk having his country nuked over Ukraine. I'm sure he would do that. That doesn't seem like a thing that he would do, but,
And there were no indications that the Russian Federation was like doing nuclear escalation. Nor were there signs that the US were doing it.
Not at that point, no. I mean, like, I think that there was like a couple of things way later on. Wait, didn't Russia move some nukes like to near or like around Belarus or their border or something or was it literally all just fucking Medvedev and other people just like being like, oh my God, we're gonna use the nukes, guys, and like fucking Solovyov like crying about it every night on TV? Was it all just them talking?
Yes and no. Russia did forward deploy some nukes to Belarus, which is relevant for the deterrence vis-a-vis Belarus itself, because it signals more credible commitment of Moscow to use nukes in defense of its ally. But it does not mean there is a nuclear escalation insofar as the willingness to use nuclear weapons against the Western alliance.